You have constructed an elaborate prison, and you are both the architect and the inmate. You have convinced yourself that the bars are external, that the world, circumstances, or other people hold you captive. But the truth is far more disturbing. You are the warden of your own potential, and every day you choose to keep the cell locked. The discipline you admire in others terrifies you, not because you lack the capacity for it, but because possessing it would force you to confront the most uncomfortable truth about your existence. You have been deliberately choosing weakness. This is not the weakness of inability. It is the weakness of refusal. You have built an identity around your limitations, and that identity has become more precious to you than your freedom. You cling to it like a drowning person clings to an anchor, mistaking its weight for security. Consider the psychological function of your excuses. They are not random justifications. They are sophisticated defense mechanisms protecting something deeper. What are they protecting? The comfortable narrative that you are a victim of circumstance rather than an architect of consequence. You tell yourself you lack discipline because you lack motivation. You tell yourself you lack motivation because you lack clarity. You tell yourself you lack clarity because you lack resources, time, energy, or opportunity. This is the descending spiral of self-betrayal, each lie supporting the one above it, creating a stable structure of permanent paralysis. But here is what your shadow self knows and will never tell you. Motivation is not the precursor to action. Action is the precursor to motivation. You have the sequence reversed. You wait for the feeling to arrive before you move, when in truth, the feeling only arrives after you have moved. This reversal is not accidental. It is a feature, not a bug, of your psychological architecture. It ensures you never begin. The people you admire do not possess a different nature. They possess a different relationship with their own resistance. They have looked into the mirror of their own excuses and recognized them for what they are. The voice of the shadow self, the part of the psyche that craves safety over growth, comfort over transformation, the known hell over the unknown heaven. Your shadow self is not your enemy. This is the crucial misunderstanding. It is not an evil force to be destroyed. It is a protective mechanism that has outlived its usefulness. It was designed to keep you safe in an environment where safety mattered more than growth. But you no longer live in that environment. You live in a world where your greatest danger is not external threat. It is internal stagnation. The shadow self speaks in your own voice. It uses your logic, your reasoning, your legitimate concerns to construct arguments for inaction. It is intelligent, articulate, and deeply persuasive because it knows you better than anyone else. It knows exactly which buttons to push, which fears to invoke, which comforts to promise. And its ultimate weapon is this. It convinces you that listening to it is an act of self-care, when in reality, it is an act of self-destruction in slow motion. You have been trained to fear the wrong things. You fear failure, judgment, pain, and loss. But these are not your true adversaries. Your true adversary wears the mask of a friend. It speaks the language of wisdom. It promises you balance, rest, and sanity. Its name is comfort, and it is the most sophisticated predator in your psychological ecosystem. Comfort does not attack you with obvious temptations. It does not arrive as naked hedonism or blatant laziness. It arrives disguised as reasonable self-preservation. It tells you that one more day of rest won't hurt, that you deserve a break, that pushing yourself too hard is actually harmful. that listening to your body is enlightened rather than indulgent. All of these statements contain a grain of truth, which is what makes comfort so devastatingly effective. It weaponizes legitimate concepts: rest, recovery, balance, self-compassion, and turns them into instruments of permanent mediocrity. The psychological mechanism is subtle. Comfort does not ask you to abandon your goals entirely. That would trigger your alarm systems. Instead, it asks you to postpone them indefinitely. It converts your future ambitions into present relaxation, one reasonable delay at a time. Today becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes when the conditions are right. When the conditions are right becomes never. You do not notice the erosion. That is its genius. Comfort operates on a timescale too slow for immediate detection. You do not wake up one morning having lost everything. You wake up one morning and realize you have become someone you do not recognize. Someone soft, hesitant, and perpetually about to start. The disciplined have not defeated comfort. This is crucial to understand. They still feel its pull. The voice that tells them to stay in bed 5 more minutes, to skip today's session, to take the easier path. They hear that voice with the same clarity you do. The difference is not in the intensity of the temptation, but in their response to it. They have learned to recognize comfort's voice and disregard it. Not through willpower. Willpower is finite and exhausting, but through identity. They have decided at a fundamental level who they are, and that identity does not negotiate with temporary feelings. This is the shift you must make. You are not trying to become disciplined. You are recognizing that discipline is not a trait to acquire, but a decision to enforce. The decision is binary and absolute. Either you are the kind of person who does what they said they would do, or you are the kind of person who doesn't. There is no middle ground, no spectrum, no working on it. Comfort wants you to believe in the spectrum. It wants you to believe that discipline is a gradient you gradually climb. But this belief itself is a trap. It allows you to perpetually position yourself on the lower rungs while convincing yourself you're making progress. The truth is more brutal. Discipline is a threshold. You are either across it or you are not. And the only way across is to jump, not to gradually ease over. Your comfort zone is not a place of rest. It is a place of decay. Every day you spend within it, you are not maintaining your current self. You are becoming a lesser version of that self. Comfort is not neutral. It is actively corrosive. It dissolves capability, confidence, and ambition at a rate just slow enough to avoid triggering panic. By the time you notice the damage, you have become someone who no longer recognizes what they have lost. You mistake your diminished state for your natural state. You forget what it felt like to be hungry, sharp, and dangerous. You forget because remembering would be too painful. It would force you to confront the enormity of what you have surrendered for the sake of temporary ease. You carry your potential like a shield. You speak of it in hushed, reverent tones. You reference it whenever someone questions your lack of visible achievement. I could if I wanted to, you say. I have what it takes. And in that moment, you are absolutely sincere. You believe it completely. But potential is not an asset. Potential is a debt. It is a promissory note written to your future self. And every day you fail to pay it, the interest compounds. Eventually, the debt becomes so massive that you declare psychological bankruptcy. You stop believing in the promise entirely. You stop believing in yourself entirely. And the most tragic part is that you never actually tested whether the promise was real. You just let it expire, unused. This is the ego's most sophisticated defense mechanism. It allows you to feel superior without ever submitting to the test of reality. You can maintain the illusion of capability without ever facing the possibility of genuine failure. As long as you never truly commit, you never truly fail. As long as you never truly fail, you can maintain the fantasy that you would have succeeded if only you had tried. The disciplined understand something you are terrified to acknowledge. Potential means nothing. Execution is everything. The world does not reward what you could have done. It rewards what you did. And more importantly, you do not build self-respect from what you could have done. You build it from what you actually did. Every person you admire started with nothing more than you have. No special advantage, no hidden gift, no divine dispensation. What they had was a willingness to convert potential into practice, even when that conversion was messy, ugly, and imperfect. You wait for perfection. You wait for the conditions to be ideal, for your understanding to be complete, for your skill to be sufficient. This waiting is not patience. It is cowardice, dressed in the language of prudence. You are not waiting for the right moment. You are waiting for a moment that will never come. A moment when action feels safe. But action never feels safe. Growth never feels safe. Transformation never feels safe. The entire point of these processes is that they require you to step beyond the boundaries of your current self. And your current self will fight this with every weapon in its arsenal. Your ego does not want you to actualize your potential. Actualization would destroy the ego's favorite toy, the fantasy of who you might become. As long as you remain in potential, you can be anyone. The moment you commit to becoming someone specific, you eliminate all other possibilities. Your ego experiences this not as liberation, but as death. This is why starting is harder than continuing. Starting requires you to execute an ego death. You must kill the version of yourself that exists in pure possibility and accept the version that exists in concrete action, flawed, limited, and undeniably real. The disciplined have made peace with this death. They understand that the person they might have been is less valuable than the person they are actively becoming. They have traded the infinite potential of fantasy for the finite achievement of reality. And in making that trade, they have gained something you cannot access while hiding in potential. They have gained self-trust. You are in a perpetual negotiation with yourself, and you always lose. Every morning, you wake up and begin the internal debate. Should I or shouldn't I? Do I have to today, or can I wait until tomorrow? Is this truly necessary, or am I just being hard on myself? This negotiation feels like rational thought. It feels like you are weighing options, considering circumstances, making intelligent decisions. But it is not rational thought. It is psychological warfare, and you are fighting yourself with one hand tied behind your back. The part of you that wants to grow, that wants to build discipline, achieve goals, become stronger, is at a fundamental disadvantage in this negotiation. It is always arguing for discomfort, effort, and sacrifice. It is always demanding that you leave the warmth of the known for the cold uncertainty of the unknown. The part of you that wants comfort, that wants to preserve the current state, avoid pain, and maintain equilibrium, has every rhetorical advantage. It speaks for the body, which wants rest. It speaks for the ego, which wants safety. It speaks for the immediate moment, which wants pleasure. And most devastatingly, it speaks in the language of care. It frames staying in bed as self-compassion. It frames avoiding challenge as self-preservation. It frames maintaining comfort as wisdom. You cannot win this negotiation because the negotiation itself is the problem. The moment you open the debate, you have already lost. The disciplined understand this at a cellular level. They do not negotiate. They do not entertain the internal dialogue. They have established a protocol, and the protocol executes automatically, without requiring consent from the emotional mind. This is the fundamental difference you have been missing. You think discipline is about winning the internal argument. It is not. Discipline is about eliminating the internal argument entirely. Consider the mechanism. When you wake up and your alarm goes off, what happens in the mind of the undisciplined person? A cascade of negotiation. Do I really need to get up now? Maybe 5 more minutes. Is this truly important today? What if I just start tomorrow? In the mind of the disciplined person, nothing. The alarm goes off. They get up. There is no intermediate step of deliberation. The action is not contingent on feeling. It is simply the next item in a pre-established sequence. This is not robotic. This is liberation. The energy you waste every single day negotiating with yourself, the cognitive load, the emotional burden, the decision fatigue, the disciplined have eliminated entirely. They do not expend energy deciding whether to act. They simply act. All of their energy is available for the execution itself. You believe negotiation is a sign of a thoughtful, nuanced mind. But in the context of discipline, negotiation is a sign of an unconquered mind. It is evidence that you have not yet established sovereignty over your own behavior. You are still allowing the parliament of temporary emotions to vote on permanent commitments. The shift happens when you stop asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" and start recognizing that the question itself is irrelevant. Feelings are weather. They change hourly. If your actions are contingent on favorable internal weather, your actions will be as inconsistent as the weather itself. The disciplined have decoupled action from feeling. They act regardless of the internal climate. Not because they have stronger feelings or better moods, but because they have stopped consulting feelings when making decisions about what must be done. Now we arrive at the turn. You have seen the traps. You have identified the enemy. You understand that your greatest obstacles are internal, psychological, and largely invisible. The question becomes, what do you actually do about it? The answer is not inspirational. It is mechanical. You do not transcend your psychological traps through insight alone. You transcend them through the systematic construction of behavioral patterns that bypass the traps entirely. This is where most people fail. They believe that understanding the problem is equivalent to solving it. They read, they learn, they nod in recognition at every insight, and then they do nothing. Understanding is necessary, but not sufficient. Understanding without implementation is just sophisticated procrastination. You need a system, not motivation, not inspiration, a system. A system is a predetermined set of actions that execute regardless of your psychological state. It is a protocol that does not require you to feel good, think clearly, or want to comply. It simply requires you to obey. Start impossibly small. This is not a motivational cliche. This is a psychological necessity. Your internal resistance is proportional to the size of the demand. If you demand huge, dramatic change, you will trigger massive resistance. Your shadow self will mobilize every defense mechanism to prevent the disruption. But if you demand something trivially small, the resistance mechanism does not activate. It sees no threat. This is how you smuggle discipline past your own defenses. You do not start by committing to work out for an hour every day. You commit to putting on your workout clothes. That is the entire commitment. The action is so small that your internal negotiation system cannot justify opposing it. And once you are in your workout clothes, The psychological momentum often carries you forward into the actual workout. But even if it doesn't, you have fulfilled your commitment. You have built the foundation of trust with yourself. This is the mechanism. You are not trying to build the behavior itself. You are trying to build the identity of someone who keeps their commitments, no matter how small. That identity, that fundamental shift in how you view yourself, is what generates lasting discipline. The system must be non-negotiable. This word is critical. Non-negotiable. Not, I'll do my best. Not, I'll try. Not, unless something comes up. Non-negotiable means it happens, regardless of circumstances, feelings, or external conditions. The only exceptions are genuine emergencies, and you must define what qualifies as an emergency before the system begins. Otherwise, everything becomes an emergency. You must build the system in a way that eliminates decision-making. Decision-making consumes energy and creates friction. The more decisions you have to make, the more opportunities for resistance to derail you. This is why successful people often have rigid routines. It is not because they lack creativity or spontaneity. It is because they understand that discipline is preserved through the elimination of choice. Wake up at the same time. Eat the same breakfast. Follow the same sequence of actions. The monotony is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is the rails on which consistent progress runs. Track everything. Not for motivation, but for accountability. You cannot manage what you do not measure. Keep a simple record of whether you executed your system each day. Not whether you felt good about it. Not whether you exceeded expectations. Just whether you did what you said you would do. This binary tracking is far more powerful than elaborate metrics because it cuts through all the sophisticated justifications and reveals the only question that matters. Did you keep your promise to yourself? The ultimate tool is not a technique. It is identity. Everything you do flows from who you believe you are. If you believe you are someone who struggles with discipline, you will continue to struggle. If you believe you are someone who is working on discipline, you will perpetually be in the process of working on it. But if you believe you are someone who is disciplined, your behavior will align with that belief. This is not positive thinking. This is not affirmation. This is the deliberate reconstruction of self-concept based on evidence you provide yourself through action. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you are not just accomplishing a task. You are submitting evidence to your subconscious mind about who you are. You are building the case, action by action, that you are the kind of person who does what they say they will do. The inverse is equally true. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, you are not just failing at a task. You are teaching yourself that your word means nothing. You are training yourself to distrust your own promises. This is why small, repeated failures are more destructive than large, isolated failures. The large failure can be attributed to circumstances. The small, repeated failure becomes attributed to character. You must become ruthless about the distance between what you say and what you do. If you say you will do something, you must do it. If you are not certain you will do it, do not say it. This is not about achievement. This is about integrity with yourself. The disciplined do not have better willpower. They have clearer identity. They know who they are, and who they are is someone whose behavior is non-negotiable. This is not rigidity. This is coherence. Their actions match their self-concept, which creates a stable, unshakable foundation. You must steal this mechanism. You must declare who you are, not who you hope to become, not who you are working toward, who you are right now, today. And then you must behave in accordance with that declaration until the declaration becomes true through the accumulation of evidence. If you declare, "I am disciplined," you must immediately begin behaving as a disciplined person would behave. Not perfectly, but consistently. The gap between declaration and reality is where the work happens. You are not lying to yourself. You are creating a template that your behavior will grow to fill. This is the true meaning of fake it until you make it. You are not pretending to have achieved something you have not. You are embodying the identity before you have fully earned it. And in doing so, you earn it. You have been too kind to yourself. Not in the ways that matter, not in genuine care, rest, or compassion, but in the ways that destroy. You have been merciful toward your excuses, your delays, your broken promises. You have treated your internal resistance with endless patience and understanding. This mercy is killing you. The discipline you admire in others is not built on self-compassion. It is built on something far more ancient and powerful. Self-mastery through self-tyranny. The disciplined are not gentle with themselves. They are relentless. They do not negotiate, accommodate, or make exceptions. They rule themselves with absolute authority. This sounds harsh. It is harsh. But it is also the only path to freedom. You cannot be free while you are subject to the whims of your temporary feelings. You cannot be powerful while you are ruled by comfort. You cannot achieve anything significant while you are negotiating with a part of yourself that wants to remain small. You must become the dictator of your own actions. Not cruel, but absolutely uncompromising. When you set a standard, you enforce it. When you make a commitment, you fulfill it. When you establish a boundary, you defend it. No exceptions, no mercy, no negotiation. This is not about being harsh to yourself. This is about respecting yourself enough to hold yourself to the standard you would hold someone you truly respected. You would not tolerate endless excuses from someone you admired. You would expect them to keep their word. You must extend that same expectation to yourself. The people you admire are not different from you. They have simply stopped being merciful to their own weakness. They looked at the part of themselves that wanted to quit, wanted to delay, wanted to take the easy path, and they said no. Not once, every single day. That is the only difference. They wake up and enforce the law they have set for themselves. They do not wait to feel like it. They do not seek permission from their emotional state. They simply execute the protocol because they have decided that who they are is someone who does what must be done. You have that same capacity, the same will, the same potential for absolute self-governance. What you lack is not ability, it is enforcement. You have been a lenient ruler, and your kingdom has fallen into chaos. It is time to establish order. The discipline you admire in others is not waiting to be found. It is not hidden in some external source. It is already inside you, waiting for you to stop being kind to your excuses and start being loyal to your commitments. You do not need more information. You do not need more preparation. You do not need better circumstances. You need to stop negotiating with the version of yourself that wants to remain comfortable and start obeying the version of yourself that knows what must be done. That version has been speaking to you your entire life. You have just been refusing to listen because listening would require you to act, and action would require you to leave the safety of your current identity. But you are reading this, which means part of you is ready. Part of you is done with the comfortable lie. Part of you wants to know what you are truly capable of when you stop sabotaging yourself. That part is correct. The discipline you see in others is a mirror. And when you finally look into it without flinching, without making excuses, without negotiating, when you look into it and simply decide to become what you see, everything changes. Not because you learned something new, because you stopped pretending you didn't already know what to do.